board. And so he went to Activision, said, hey, now's the time to do it. People are digging peripherals and stuff, and it's time to just kind of mix things up a bit. So they came to Robomoto, and they basically just said, hey, we want you guys to do something new with the franchise, and we want it to be on the board, and that was it. And we just ran with it from there. So we created the board and the game at the same time, making sure that there's a clear one-to-one interaction.
Right. So the demand was a skateboard, but how many prototypes did you guys go through before you nailed it?
The prototypes were insane. We went through at least 8 different prototypes, and the first one was literally just a blank skate deck with a Wiimote attached on top of it. That got us, a little bit of tilting for navigation and things like that. But then as we realized we wanted to have more and more, skate mechanics in there, we started adding things on. The craziest, prototype that we had a skate deck with a Wiimote, Xbox 360 wireless controller, and a PS3 gyroscope, and it was like the United Nations of game controllers. It was crazy, but it worked. And we showed that to Activision, and based on that, they're like, man, just run with it, go with it.
And then it was just a matter of making it look like a skateboard, right?
Yeah. So we had to sex it up a bit and stuff. So this is the actual board design. Oh, we'll get back to that in a second here because Ken's going nuts over here.
I definitely want to show the board. But
sure.
Let's talk about the controls. What's Ken doing here? How do you play this game?
So basically, if you have seen somebody skateboard, you pretty much know how to play our game.
Right.
So you stand on the board. You see that he lifts up the board slowly, and that gets you a manual, which is basically a wheelie. And then when you pops it up a little bit harder, you'll get the ollie. So he's going to hit this jump here, right there. And then you'll notice that he grabbed over to the side of the board, and he just reached over. We have these 4 sensors around the board that allows you to basically reach out, break the beam, and your character on screen will grab that part of the board. And it's freaking crazy when you see that. And on top of that, you can reach out to multiple sensors and get more advanced grab moves.
Okay.
And those sensors, that's like the magic sauce of the board.
Right.
Because when you're on the ground and you sweep your foot by one of the sensors, your character does a push. But if you're up in the air, the sensors know that you're up in the air now. So if you reach out to it, you'll do a grab instead.
Right.
And it's crazy balls technology. It's amazing.
I was talking to Ken before we went on, and I was asking him how to do specific tricks. I mean, the kicking to go forward is natural. The moving the board to do manuals back and forward is natural. But things like kick flips in midair, you can do all that stuff, and it's as close to doing it in real life as you guys could probably possibly get it, right?
Yeah, obviously we don't want people doing, let's say, a real kick flip.
Right.
But what we did was we worked with a lot of pro skaters and watched how they do their specific moves. So, a real kickflip is a guy popping up the board and then he kicks the board to make it spin. So we were, working with the pros, we kind of distilled it down to some core, motions itself. So it's really just you pop up on the board and you tilt instead, and that mimics the spin of the board. So if you see somebody doing, let's say, a varial, which is a rotation around the y-axis, then you lift up the board and you rotate the board instead. So all the gestures are very easy to pull off, and they're not the way real skaters actually do their moves, but it is a step towards actual skating.
And you were saying that I remember when you first showed this off to the press, you were saying that you had Tony Hawk come in and try it out. Tell me about that experience, and did he take to it pretty quick?
Yeah, I mean, the first time he came in, he was just shocked by what we pulled off. There have been skateboarding peripherals before, and they've always been these aftermarket products and been very limited. And even in our early prototypes, just showing Tony, hey, you know what, you can do all this rotation, all these tilts and things like that, and even the grabs, he was completely blown away by it. And ever since then, he's trusted us to move forward with the board and the game together.
So we saw one level earlier. Where are we here? What are we doing here? Obviously doing tricks, yeah?
So the interesting thing that we're doing with Tony Hawk Ride is that we broke out half pipe as a completely separate session.
Right.
When we're working on the board and we're finding out all the things you can do with the board, we realized, man, we can get a really deep half pipe experience. So we broke it out separately, and you'll notice that the board is now rotated to be parallel with the screen,
right,
because that's mimicking real half pipe skating where you're going back and forth.
Right.
And this is really where you see how the board is so one-to-one with what you see on screen. So when he goes to the left side, or left side of the half pipe itself, what he does with the board corresponds directly with that direction.
Okay.
So you know exactly what you can and can't do based on what you see on screen and how your body is positioned.
Have you seen the half pipe and the level we saw previously? It brings up the question: how are you organizing game modes in this? Is this an open world game, or is this sort of by skate type?
It's so the thing is that because we wanted to make sure that the game makes sense with the board and doesn't feel like something else just slapped on afterwards, we wanted to basically make sure that people standing on the board aren't looking for gameplay. So the problem with an open world situation is if I'm standing on the board and I'm skating for 10 minutes looking for something to do, I'm going to be pretty bored and tired of it. So that allowed us to basically work with more discrete levels, more enclosed type levels, and inadvertently brought back the feeling of the early Tony Hawk games, which we were just really happy about.
Great. So can you give us an idea of the different kinds of things you'll be able to do in the game?
Man, it's probably easier to tell you what you can do in the game. I mean, it is insane, just the amount of things that you can pull off. We have over 75 different tricks that you can pull off on the board. The sensors allow you to modify certain tricks, so you can do more advanced moves with those. So besides half pipe level, one thing that we did was we broke out our different sessions. So in one level, like the earlier level that you saw, which was the LA River, you can play in 3 different ways, all in the same level. It's we have speed session, which is going from point A to point B in the fastest amount of time. Next one is trick session, which is you have a set amount of time, you get the highest score possible, which is basically your classic Tony Hawk mode. And then the last one is what we saw here with Ken earlier, is the challenge session, where in that same level you have specific drop spots that you go into, and you're presented with 1, 2, or 3 challenges that calls out, hey, you need to hit this spot with this specific trick to get past it, and then go on to the next challenge part of the level.
So someone who picks up Tony Hawk Ride for the first time, maybe they've never ridden a skateboard before, is there a tutorial?
Oh yeah, most definitely. For one thing, when we, in tuning of the game, we want to make sure that even if you don't go to the tutorial, you can pretty much figure out all the basics that you need to do. So it's very easy to just get on and just have some fun. But, for some of the more advanced moves, we have, really good, training mode that just steps you through from the basics to more advanced moves as you go along. And that's a separate mode from your career mode, because we don't want to make career mode all about training. It's like if you think you're good, go right into career mode. If you think you need the training, then you can do that separately.
Great. You mind if we take some questions from the audience?
Yeah, no,
let's do it. All right, let me find some here. Let's see. Roberto Arudo from, I don't know where he's from, but he wants to know, how do players, he's basically asking about customization. What kind of customization options will you have for your board, your rider? Will you be able to do custom tricks, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so we have a pretty robust Create a Skater system, and you can pretty much make just about anybody you want, and both male and female. And then you have you can pick out custom skate deck decals, and pick out your truck, your wheel colors. I mean, it's pretty robust. You can do just about everything.
Kyle has Kyle from New York has an interesting question, one I hadn't thought of before. He wants to know, what is the weight limit on the skateboard peripheral?
Weight limit. Right now, the weight limit is 300 pounds.
Okay.
And we've had some people of varying sizes on the board, and it's held up. I mean, E3 has been the ultimate test of the durability of this board. I mean,
yeah.
It's been insane. So we got some people, not just people who are 300 pounds, but people just really slamming the board around all over the place. And so far, so good. We've been doing really well with the durability.
It's something we were talking about before the show.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people will be playing this on carpet, but a lot of people will be playing it on wood surfaces too, right?
Sure.
So
yeah, I mean, we've been testing out on a lot of different types of surfaces, and some surfaces are a little bit more recommended than others, but in general, it holds up to quite a few different types.
Christopher Withers from looks like Great Britain wants to know about the soundtrack. Any featured bands, good stuff there?
Yeah,
you doing Guitar Hero stuff in here?
No, it's the I can't really get into the soundtrack right now, but it's a great mix. I mean, my musical tastes probably are not the same as many of the guys back at the studio or at Activision, but I leave the game on constantly all day in my office, and I haven't heard a song that's really gotten me angry yet. So that's good.
That's a good sign.
Yeah, it's a good sign.
All right, so I should ask you about the game's look too. It doesn't look like old Tony Hawk games. it's a different visual effect here, especially right now when you do these super tricks, right?
So that's a signature moment. So, it's kind of like Star Power and Guitar Hero and stuff. You build up